Facebook page. So, hello everyone, welcome to another Thursday webinar brought to you by the Malta Photography webinars in collaboration with the Malta Photographic Society. Hoping you all had a great week. We had some really clear skies this week and a possibility to shoot some shooting stars as well, but I missed that opportunity. I saw some good photos as well. Anyway, I would like to inform you that Stephen and myself are working on a new program. In fact, we've got a meeting tomorrow um, uh, to bring for next year. We're working on another program for which would take us into the first quarter of 2021. But obviously, we will reveal more details in due course. So stay tuned. Coming to our featuring artist this week, a short introduction, who is a very young and yet so versatile and experienced Lorella Castillo. I have to say, I was very lucky to discover her talent from a Facebook group, actually, where I saw a recommendation of her for a photography commission. I immediately visited her website to see her work and instantly felt we had to invite her to share with us her vision. In fact, Stephen can acknowledge this because I called him immediately and I told her we have to get this girl to give us a webinar. Lorella always looks to combine her two main passions, traveling and photography. When she is not shooting beautiful places, she heads out to capture beautiful souls. So for her, any kind of art is a universal language one can use to communicate with. Her aim is to let people know straight away that the image is her before getting to see her photo signature. She enjoys looking for the boring stuff with the aim of making it extraordinary, primarily with the use of different techniques, such as reflections, having close interactions with locals, and looking for the little details. Her love for travel photography originated from her eagerness to experience new parts of the world, reciting stories of the destinations she visited and accompany them with visuals, ranging from beautiful skylines to everyday locals. If just like Lorella, you love to capture anything other than usual famous tourist attractions, sunsets, and flowers, you might look strange to the everyday person. It is when she gets the weirdest reactions from people watching her, sometimes even laying on the floor to get a different angle, she feels that she would be getting the best pictures. When words fail, photography speaks. That is her motto. She hopes that in 60 years, when she gets older and wrinkly, she will be able to look back at her photos and let her 20-year-old self, 22-year-old self speak through them. Um, uh, so that's a short introduction about Lorella. A couple of thanks as usual. Thank you to Stephen Bohajar for his support he gives me to put up these webinars. Joseph Mifsud, our technical guru, for streaming our webinars live on Facebook page and for the great work he is doing. As you can see, as we've just seen, the great work he is doing behind the scenes, which is not always visible. The MPS Exco for their ongoing support, tremendous commitment to our society, which I can say that throughout these past months they've uplifted the society and placed it really and truly in a different level. The Facebook group for supporting us by promoting our webinars on their pages. Very pleased to see again Tony Azzopardi from Fotografia Bejn il-Ħbieb, Alexander Kutajjar from Photography Shots, and Johan De Bono from All Photography. Thank you so much. I will now hand over to my friend Stephen, the secretary, and Joseph to share with us some good news regarding MPS. But before Stephen, I don't know if the president, Louis, would like to say a few words. So before I hand over, I will ask Louis to give us. Louis is, as you all know, is the president of the Malta Photographic Society. Louis, I'm trying to unmute you. Okay.
Okay,
Um, Louis, Louis, if you can go in front of the camera because we're just seeing half of your face. Okay, it's better like that. We can see your face now.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we hear, we hear.
I don't have much to say, just to say thank you to you especially, and to the rest like Stephen and Joseph for helping you having this. At least we're meeting. We're not meeting in the place, but we're meeting at least virtually. I want to wish you all the best for the Christmas, hoping that next year will be a better year. And I'll leave it to Steve to say any other news. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis. Over
Thanks
to
a
you,
lot,
Steve.
Louis. Thank you. First of all, I would like to excuse Joe Attard, who wanted to say hello to all, but for health reasons today he couldn't join us. I want to say good evening to all MPS members and non-members, because we have also here non-members. As Vince stated, today is the last webinar for 2020. During this year, our collaboration with Vince himself, as a member of the Malta Photographic Society, resulted in nearly 28, if I added correctly, 28 webinars, which started on the 27th of March, with
That's right.
few photography enthusiasts meeting online to meet to make up for our Thursday's meeting at the club. With Vince Piscopo as the mastermind to host these meetings on Zoom. If you remember well, Vince, we were
Yes.
8 in all for our first meeting. I still have the screenshot.
Yes, Stephen. And over here, I would like to thank also Alexander Kotayar, who was one of those, he's present here today,
Yes.
who was one of the few in the beginning that supported us, that tested us. Along with him, there was Anthony Schwierep, I believe, Noel
Yes.
Portelli,
And also Mr. Cox
Mr.
as
Cox
well.
as
Leonard
well.
was with us.
Yes, and Mr. Cox as well.
And Tony, I have still a screenshot of that day.
Oh, you can share it with us then. Later on, maybe.
Let me see. Yes, I can share it. If I'm not mistaken, it was this one.
That's it. That's right. That's right. There was also Ben, in fact, Benjamin Sant.
As the honorary secretary of the society, I wish to thank you, Vince, for your continuous support and commitment. We joined forces to present a lineup of local and foreign photographers, where these share their knowledge and photographic repertoire with those present to keep abreast with their passion even during difficult times, since we were asked by the health authorities to respect distances and stay at home. The excellently organized webinars have been and still are an outstanding source of reference to keep on learning about our favorite subject, while seeing those faces we all miss so much. The Executive Committee of the Malta Photographic Society, together with Vince Piscopo, will continue to provide you with these webinars until the authorities lift the measures, and life will be back to business as we were before April. I am sure that the new Executive Committee will continue to keep working in providing educational material to its loyal members. Don't forget that if you want us to continue being of service, your support is much needed. Your small contribution helps the society to keep organizing events and activities related to photography. We look forward to seeing you virtually on Thursdays, and also for our coming annual general meeting, which is going to happen on the 15th of January. In fact, all paid up members will receive an invitation by email to access our online annual general meeting. Last and not least, I wish to give you all and your loved ones a Merry Christmas, blessed by our Lord, and wish you a better New Year with much more photographic opportunities to extend your photographic collection. I don't want to take too much time because I'm sure Lorella is going to give us a very good, interesting webinars with some of her excellent photos she took abroad and I'm sure most of you are going to appreciate, as they did appreciate last week's webinar by Joe Smith. Thank you all.
Indeed. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much. Excellent introduction. And so, without any further ado, I introduce Lorella. I've opened your mic, Lorella. Good luck. The floor is yours. You've got really a good crowd today, so we're full house.
Thank you so much. So, as Vince and Stephen both introduced me with an amazing introduction, I must say, I really don't have much more to add to that introduction because it quite summed up all that I have to say about me. As they said, I am 22 years old. I have been into photography now for around 7 years. Now I'm working full time in photography, and I've also kept it as my hobby, to say. As Vince has already introduced me and spoke about me, I truly believe that creating a unique style and making it recognizable is a truly important factor. In fact, I mostly capture landscapes and portraits, as Vince said, which I try to make instantly recognizable. I think it's truly amazing, in fact, that when people see your shots, whoever you are, whatever you shoot, they are able to associate and understand your style with every piece of work that you publish. So, something else I would like to add. I always love to add this part whenever I speak about my photography, as you probably have all experienced with your passion in photography, just like me. People all the time are asking, sort of, "I love your photography. You must have a really good camera, some really good equipment." Which is true, you must have good equipment, especially if you're working full time. However, the fundamental and the most important gear you need is a pair of eyes and an endless imagination. A lot of people think that if they invest in better equipment, in a better camera, they'll be able to take better photos, but with the absence of love and thought in your work, that won't be necessary. Today, I will be mostly speaking about my travel photographs, the ones I've captured throughout my travels in the past years. As Vince said already, I'm going to add my love for travel photography has originated from wanting to explore, wanting to meet new people, wanting to discover new places, and really wanting to capture the ordinary, the boring stuff. So, I will start off today with a collection of my photos from my trip last year to the Canadian Rockies and Alaska. If you'll excuse me, I will share my screen. So, can you all see the first image? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So, I will be starting off with a pair of images. You will see why it's a pair when I go on to the next photo. So, I have chosen to pair these two images because there is a similar subject in both of them. They both engage the viewer in a way as if they are being led and directed towards a place. And both images, as well as the one you are going to see, they have such similar content but in such a different approach. This photo, I had to title it Driving into the Unknown because that's what it felt like to me. And my intent for taking this photo was to capture that kind of drama created from the very hazy and snowy day when I was driving to Banff. This was taken exactly on the day I arrived in Canada, and the conditions for driving were literally the worst. But I seem to enjoy photographing the worst conditions, so that's it. In order to enhance this dramatic feel that I've spoken about, as you can see, I darkened the photo all around, and really just focused on the leading lines in the photo in order to enhance the sense of directing and leading the viewer somewhere else. By the way, I wasn't the one driving. It's important to mention. So, this is the second image from the pair. As you can see, in this image there is a much lighter feel. The color scheme is quite a warmer one, which to me, and I think to the viewer, it tends to make the viewer feel more welcomed into the direction they're being led into. As with most of my images you will be seeing, there is a balance between warm and cold tones. I take a lot of pictures of roads actually because I like to remember journeys. And the leading lines here are once again working by making your eye move along them into the photograph, as I wanted to give a feeling of three dimensions, even though the photo is flat. So, on to the next image. So, this is actually one of my favorite images from my trip to Canada. Just a little background story on this image and the one coming up next. When I'm on location and shooting a landscape, especially near a lake, I'm looking for one of two things. Either calm water that splits the image exactly in half to create the perfect mirror image, or else something with subtle ripples. In this image, we can see the mountains and the little boathouse, which are reflected in the perfectly still waters. Uh, this picture was taken in the eastern area of Banff National Park in Canada, and this reflection isn't actually in a lake. However, it's in a small part that had started to kind of melt in during late May, so the water was perfectly still. As you can see, this technique, the reflection technique, is creating a strong compositional balance and depth to the image, and I also included complementary colors, as I always love to do. This image, in fact, is mainly set on cold tones. However, the boathouse is the one thing that is completely standing out in warmer tones. In my opinion, you will see that I love shooting reflections, as I think they can spice up an otherwise lifeless photo and turn it into something much better. May I also add that no tripod was used for this shot and no longer shutter speeds. The water was just that still, which made it possible for me to just lie down on a frozen surface and snap the picture. So, in the next image, which I have paired with this one as it's also part of a reflection, the muted tones, which are again constant throughout my style, and the misty conditions worked perfectly with the gentle ripples of the water. This was actually taken on a lake, on the Vermilion Lakes in Banff, and we can see again how the reflections are balancing the image and are giving that composition that's pleasing to the eye. So, with the last image, the part that complemented the cool tones was the boathouse, as we could see. In this image, it's the center part, the part with the grass, the part with the trees, the part with the ground, as it's got some warmer tones. These calm lake shots were a good opportunity to break the rule of thirds and go for perfect symmetry, in fact. And another thing is, I always want to avoid direct light on the water, which is why a lot of my images you are going to see are either taken close to sunrise or close to sunset, when the sun is still at a point low enough not to be shining down exactly on the water. Though reflections are very easy to find, they are not always very easy to photograph. To get a good picture of a reflection, as you all probably know, you first need to find an angle that will bring out that reflection. You want an angle that has good lighting, yet no direct sun. So if you see me anywhere outside lying face down on the ground with my camera, you know what I'm doing. On to the next image. So, this image, I think, seems to be quite an illusion, as most people tend to think that it's an aerial shot taken with a drone or something of the sort. In fact, this image is a one-off when it comes to my style. It's not something I usually capture. However, this was different. As you can see, it's quite a minimal image. However, with so many textures and so many contrasts. So, I mean, in between the blue and the white, the frozen and the water. Um, a lot of people tend to think that this was taken with a drone, in fact. However, I don't own a drone. And I also travel light, so my aim is to always try and challenge myself in creating something that raises questions like this, with just the limited amount of equipment I carry on such long trips. In fact, in order to capture this image, I found a little wooden small bridge, which was on top of this partially frozen lake in Johan National Park, and looked for a really small part. It was incredibly small, where the lake had started to thaw in late May. The contrasting textures, as I said, there's the solid versus liquid, the contrasting colors, the deep and rich blue against the icy white, were the components I needed for a balanced image. And to further induce balance in my image, I used composition, as you can see. As you can see, the image is split in half, with each side of it containing a different texture and a different color. So, this image was taken in the town of Hoona in Alaska. Just a little background on the place. Hoona's access to the outstanding fishing along Icy Strait attracts a lot of sport fishing and wildlife enthusiasts, therefore the subject. I went for a heads-on perspective and a particular composition where the boat's textures and colors would be complemented by the background, where we can see cooler tones, the very soft and calming effect in the background against the textures from the boat, and also the strong colors, the reds, the yellows, the greens. So I try to balance this image as usual in my style by finding the complementary colors and also the textures. Looking back at this image, it gives me a sense of serenity, which I hope you and all other viewers are able to get. So, I have paired this image with the next one as a reference. This image and the next one, I will show it and then get back to this one. So you will get the reference. These images were both taken on a whale watching trip from Hoona, Alaska, disembarking from Icy Strait. I remember this was both a scary and a beautiful thing to remember. I was on this boat. It was a really small boat, and only 5 people were allowed on the front deck. And I won't say funnily enough, but for me it was funny. We happened to be 5 photographers, all from different parts of the world, and that was amazing. I could see that we were all shooting the same subjects, however, in such different ways and different perspectives, with different lenses, different equipment, so we all had something in common, yet so different. And that's the beauty of it, I believe, as I've already said. I really wanted to bring out the drama in these 2 images and the mystery there is from just seeing the humpback whale's tails and not the face and the full body. To me, this was the way I wanted to capture it. This time round, not much complementary colors were used. However, I instead balanced these images between light tones and dark tones. A fast shutter speed was obviously used to shoot these, as unfortunately, these little details are only revealed for split seconds. So you have to be fast, as humpbacks can dive for over 30 minutes. And before they do, they will arch their back out of the water, revealing their tails. So you really have to be fast if you want to capture their tails. This is the second image, the one I paired with the last one. I prepared both of them and edited both of them in such similar styles, as obviously they were taken in the same place at the same times. I don't know if it's the same whale, I will never know that. However, it's the same style. So, this is an image of a glacier. This glacier, as you can see, is slowly disappearing. It was taken in Alaska's Inside Passage, and I obviously was on board the ship. And it really struck me how, I mean, you can only imagine what these glaciers look like. But when you see them in real life, it's a feeling I cannot describe. I wanted this image to be dramatic again, because the actual situation, is quite a dramatic one. I mean, these glaciers are disappearing due to climate change, um, which is a sad thing and yet a beautiful thing to see. I darkened the image all throughout and used cooler tones in order to leave the focus mainly on the glacier's highlights. I also included the reflective, partially frozen waters to add more depth to the image. However, in the dark part of the image, which is the left side, there is still that's some little part of detail that I wanted to actually leave. However, to me, this had to be. Most people ask, why is this so dark? Why is this so, edited this way? To me, it's edited this way because it's so important to focus on what's happening on the right part of the image, that the left part has to completely be left in the dark.
Lorella, first of all, well done for this image. I really like it because I mean, it strikes me in a way that I can see a contrast between the left side and the right hand side. While I look at the left hand side, I can still see detail. So imagine if I get to see the original image. But well done for that. We've got some comments. You started really good because you've got some very good praises already from Tony Azzopardi, from John Suda, from Pauline. She's saying she loves your image, so young and
Thank
so
you.
talented. Keep it up. And we've got a question from Louis Ajus as well. He's asking you, which camera and lenses do you use?
So, I use the Nikon D810, and as lenses, I mostly work with the 24 to 70 f2.8 and with the 70 to 200 f2.8. Hope I answered your question well
Okay,
enough.
okay, Louis, do you want to ask Lorella something else? I open your mic. Have to open your mic. Okay.
Thank you, and prosit. Very, very nice photos. I like this one. It's in my alley, but I also like those whales. Um, I wonder how many shots you've taken
A
of them.
lot. A
Because
whole
I
lot.
would have taken about 1,000.
Yes, there are 1,000. Thank you
Because
so much for your comments. And yes, I will try and see how many photos I have in order to actually have chosen those two, and I will get back to you after the webinar with a number. Thank you so much.
There are any other questions, just write in the chat so that, or if you want me to open your mics, feel free. Just let me know, raise a hand, or do some, and I can open your mics. Okay, so that we can have a healthy discussion as you go along. Okay, Lorella, all to you again.
Thank you so much, Vince. So, These waterfalls are called the Nugget Falls. They are opposite to the Mendenhall Glacier in Juneau, Alaska. And the guy walking along the trail, he was walking back to Juneau, holding the yellow bag, was really what motivated me to take this image. It was the point of contrast that I needed to have a balance of tones and textures in the rest of the image. The deep rich color of the water in front of the trail, the frozen movement of the falls, and also by using the guy walking along the trail as a subject, I really wanted to emphasize how how incredibly mighty and strong nature is when compared to men. Also, the waterfall seems as if it's leading the viewer's eye to this man walking by. So the shapes, the lines in this image, without without actually knowing, are all leading not towards the most beautiful part of the image, which is the waterfall and the background, however, to the man walking quietly, silently along this trail. As you can see, there are more complementary colors. It is quite a dark image. I went for a dark look, as I do in most cases. However, that yellow bag is what really motivated me to take the image. In fact, probably I would have taken the image without the man standing there. However, the man wasn't there. Probably this image wouldn't have made it to the webinar, if you know what I mean. So, this little iceberg was there as it was forming a group. There was a group of icebergs. This was actually one of them. And it was also found when I was walking through a path to the Mendenhall Glacier in Juneau and looking through the trees and just really taking in the magical silent atmosphere there was at this place. These little icebergs were actually being carved out of the glacier and into the Mendenhall Lake. I used, as you can see, the tree branches to create a foreground to the image and really focus on the little lonely subject. And I also, again, darkened the photo all around in order to give it a certain kind of feel. And although it's a really peaceful image for me to look at, the meaning behind it is not such a peaceful one, because glaciers are a product of climate, so they also respond to climate change. In fact, the Mendenhall Glacier is rapidly retreating due to climate change. And I advise you to actually research. This glacier is a beautiful one. You have to see it, or else you once have to visit Alaska and actually look at it with your own pair of eyes. So, that's enough of Alaska and Canada. I will now be going through a series of street photography, and I will be starting with Morocco. A little background information. I visited Morocco in 2018. It's a beautiful and extremely photogenic country. There are busy markets, ancient medinas, incredible characters, which all lend themselves to the greatest shots, especially in Marrakesh, which most of these street photographs were taken in. In Morocco, as in many other countries, one must be respectful of the people and culture surrounding you. Unfortunately for photographers who are aiming for great street portraits, passers-by do not really enjoy being photographed, even though there were a lot of nice people who actually noticed me and let me do so. This is, in fact, a real shame sometimes, since faces, smiles, stares, and up-close shots speak so many words. I loved searching for these kind of individuals who appear to be in their very own universe at that specific minute, and I wanted to make them look as though they are recounting their life story through their expression and through my images. So, as one would do when practicing street photography, as difficult as it is to blend in with a 72-100, as you all know, I always try and act normal, blend in and just shoot away. This image was taken at the Jamal Fna Square in Marrakesh in April at sunset. The soft golden light was magnificently lighting up the square. In this image, I really wanted to capture the everyday life of these locals, of this family, possibly, I don't know what they could be and how they are related. And in the background, we can see the rush hour going on, as well as other tourists walking by, blending in with the locals' everyday lives. Just like I did, in fact. In the foreground, I included another person on purpose so as to add a little mystery, and also to make it feel as if the viewer is the one taking the image, looking over the shoulder of another Moroccan local. This image, again, has a similar meaning to the one before. However, it's in a quite different approach. Walking the opposite of my direction, this man actually struck me. The symmetry of the object he's carrying, the structure, the distance, and the people parted on both sides is what really gave life to this image. The mystery from not seeing this guy's face gives the photo a more dramatic feel to me, which is also enhanced with the editing of the image. I darkened everyone and everything except for this guy, which I wanted to really focus on as my subject. Even though we cannot see his face, it feels like we can understand his story better than we can understand the stories of the people whose faces are actually exposed to the camera, which happen to be just passers-by. But this guy in the center, he really made me wonder what he was carrying, to whom he was carrying it, where he was going, etc. And I hope I also raised these questions to the viewers. So, this was also taken in the Jamal Fna Square in Marrakesh. What made me snap this photo is undoubtedly the lighting, the stranger silhouetted shape. The backlight is what really struck me. And apart from that, the man's physique and his attire gave me a particular feel, somehow a bit cinematic, as if he's coming out of an actual movie. To further enhance this, I edited the image in a monochromatic way, and really didn't need that much editing because in Jamal Fna it is monochromatic even in real life. So I kept it quite loyal as a representation of the time of day and of the country street feel. And again in Morocco, as the sun sets, more of the locals will surface along with the tourists and the magic that is the chaos of the city. This is actually one of my favorite street photographs. It was also taken in Morocco, capturing contrasts, especially in black and white, to me is one of my favorite things to do. Light and shadows, especially around the golden hours, are great for this, as you all know. Playing around with different shots and getting a feel for what works best, either with color or with black and white. As with any other photographer, you know that patience is key, especially in such a busy city full of humble living people. Unlike landscape photography, it requires patience of a different kind. To remedy this, always be friendly and respectful, as I said, to those who are simply living their day-to-day lives. You will often, more often than not, be rewarded with their own kindness, and this is the best way to actually capture what they are feeling, where they are going, what they're going through. One thing I like to do is always to put myself in these locals' shoes, in the people I'm photographing in their own shoes. Actually, in order to take this image, obviously I snapped much more than one, and I seem to enjoy it most because, again, the people are parted on both sides, on both left and right. However, this man seems as if he's coming through a path of his own, and as if he's in a world of his own. And I can almost feel what was going through his head, what he was thinking. It's as if nothing else existed around him, which is what makes this image one of my favorites. So, I have paired this image with the next image. I will be showing it now, and I'm going back. So, this was taken in Casablanca, Morocco, this time round as well. This long sandy beach in Casablanca, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, is a dreamy beach, honestly. It's where passers-by can take camel rides, can have a swim, or just gaze at the horse riders wandering off into the sunset. This image, in fact, shows a truthful representation of Casablanca, one of diverse cultures, people, traditions, urban development. A walk along this beach bordering with the Atlantic Ocean is full of life. This image was taken around an hour before sunset while the rest of my family was shopping, and I wasn't, because that's what I do. It was actually quite a windy day, and the sea spray, along with the mist, created and emphasized the directional soft light coming from the right side of the image. The youthfulness seen in this image played an important part, which was most evident in the colors, which are slightly warm and muted, as with most of my images. And to me, the warm colors in this image are evoking feelings of happiness, optimism, energy, youthfulness, as I've already said. And also in the subject, the three youths having a conversation whilst enjoying the fresh breeze and the cool waters of the ocean. This one I have paired it with the previous image as it was taken in the same place, and it also portrays the dreaminess, the youthfulness, the energy that is along this beach. Some more street photography from Morocco. This was also taken at a market in Casablanca, this time in a bit of more harsh light conditions, which I don't usually shoot in. However, in this case, where it was highlighting my subject, I felt that it was a good opportunity for me. This image is also one of my favorites. It's a very simple image taken in Hassanin Mosque in Casablanca. And what really struck me about it was that this woman was sitting peacefully just down the staircase, wearing red attire, was perfectly being hit by the incoming sunlight from the top of the mosque. The large door in the background, as you can see, which is in the darkness, however, I still wanted to highlight it, plays an important part in the image. The detail in the background complemented the subject nicely, my opinion, as the bluish tint and the contrast of this large door really complemented the reds that the woman is wearing. As also seen in most of my work, I tend to look for backgrounds with the least amount of distractions. Simple backgrounds are key to me in order to create clear, high quality images that my viewers will be able to see, register, and respond to no matter when they see it. As you have seen in the set from Morocco, in contrary to my previous set from Alaska, which were made of a lot of cooler tones. This set of street photography was mostly made up of warmer tones, mostly because all images were taken during the golden hour, one which is truly, truly golden in Morocco. I will now take you to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So, some more street photography. This is also one of my favorite images, which was taken in the Santa Marta favela in Rio. This place to me is where beauty meets simplicity, brutality. It is shaped by contrasts. The daily life for most of these kids is very basic, yet they are so happy. They're actually the happiest kids I've ever seen. When I look at this image, actually brings back what I felt on that day. I wanted to keep the image quite simple, as to reflect the simplicity and innocence in this young boy's life, who was just so happy to be showing us these card tricks. In fact, the composition is quite a simple one, with no other subjects or distractions other than the boy. I also edited in black and white in order to let my viewers focus on the subject's emotional state and also to create a relationship between the contrast in the image and the contrast between these people's lives and their happiness that lies in so much simplicity. This is also actually one of my favorite images from street photography, as it's such a simple one, yet with a very subjective story to every person viewing it.
Lorella, more positive comments coming
Thank
your
you.
way. We've got a comment from Paul de Guara. He's saying that he loves your style, although very wrong. Your photographic style is pleasant and beautiful. He envies also your post processing, and he told you definitely not just a pretty face. So that's a compliment as well from Paul.
Thank you so much.
Um, uh, we've got comments from Tony Azzopardi. He's saying this is a very strong image. Leah Cox, very powerful. He is like an alien, she's saying. And another comment from Stephen saying very promising. And your photos are truly artistic. You know, you understand light, which is very important, and create outstanding images with light. I agree. I totally agree. Um, uh, in fact, your pictures speak for themselves, and I can share in a minute the polls of the results of the polls as well of the first question we placed. A good percentage, 60% of those voting, they just feel that you managed to depict an interesting story in your photos. And there is quite a good percentage which like even the use of the muted complementary colors, which I really like it as well.
Thank you so much.
So well done. That's all for now.
Grazie.
You can continue.
Okay, so this was also taken in Rio de Janeiro. Really, my intent for taking this image was to capture again the drama created from the almost silhouette of a stranger. And I really just loved the mood and the lighting. Actually, the only source of light were the street lights, which are quite dim, and the lights coming from the car's headlights. Again, I tried to further enhance the feel by darkening the image all around and just focusing on the guy's silhouette and the muted palm trees in the background, which are, there's not so much detail, however, it's the way I intended it to be. With this image and with the next one I will be showing, I wanted to draw the viewer's attention straight to the subject, who looks intriguing and I must say quite mysterious, especially in the next image. So, coincidentally, this guy is the same guy from the last image. I don't know him. I have no idea who he is, what his name is, but I captured this man twice, and that I think says a lot about my style. I really was focusing on what I wanted, and I ended up capturing the same man twice. This image was taken during sunset in Ipanema Beach. I like the fact that due to the sun coming from behind the subject, with barely to none details showing, which resulted in a silhouette, hence the title. I titled it The Faceless Man in Rio. With this image, I wanted to create something impressionistic and evocative. I wanted the viewer to think that they want to know who the man is and where he's going. I wanted to include the sense of mystery. When I tell you this image was taken at a beach, to the viewer, it doesn't look as if it was taken at a beach. And that is how I know that I've reached my goal in order to trick the viewer into thinking this was taken, for instance, in a forest, in something enchanted, something more mysterious than a beach. So, we're leaving Brazil and heading to New York. Quite a long trip. So, this one and the next image are also paired. I will be going through both of them. So, when I was in New York in September 2017, I was walking along Brooklyn Bridge, and this woman, this passerby, really struck me in a way that no other stranger passing by on the bridge did. The way she looked at me, her clothing, the way she walked, it's like I stopped the moment and went to another time, another era, another neighborhood, another culture, all while still being on Brooklyn Bridge in New York. I edited these two images in black and white, as I wanted to portray what you're left with when you strip away the glitz and the glamour of color and of such a lively city. I wanted to use the highlights and the shadows to sculpt a path through my composition, all without having to be concerned with the relationships of color in this image. A strong black and white street photo, I believe, and I know that you all know, can instantly make you feel something about the moment conveyed within the frame. In many cases, it takes what would otherwise be a completely disregarded moment in time and instead makes you concentrate on it and then contemplate and actually consider its meaning. The look in this woman's eyes was what really made me take this image and pause a moment in her life. So, I will now be going to Greece. So, all the images I will be showing in the next 5 minutes were taken in a small area in Monastiraki, Athens in Greece. I will start with this first image, which is actually my favorite one from Greece street photography series I took. This image has a number of contrasts, most of them with regards to the meaning behind it, rather than the aesthetic part. However, I will start with the one that's most obvious to the eye. The first contrast is the one seen aesthetically with some harsh lighting and the color of the guy's attire, which is red, as opposed to the muted tones in the rest of the image. Now, the contrast in what's behind this image and what really made me take it. Unfortunately, it's not a very happy image to look at. The homeless guy is sitting on the stairs leading to a church door. Another contrast is that the guy is holding branded items of clothing whilst begging for help in order to make a living. So to me, that's full of irony and another contrast. Also, as you can see behind is the guy that has just come out of church and he is slowly walking away from the homeless and the needy in the foreground. I waited until the guy behind's face is actually hidden in order not to specify who the guy is, but rather to generalize and let this feeling be a subjective one and have a different impact on different viewers. I hope this image can have a different feeling, a different meaning to all of you, to each one of you, because it truly has the meaning that lies behind it is something which isn't just aesthetically. So, this one. This is again an image which includes a number of contrasts. The first one can be easily spotted. The man is being hit by direct sunlight while in the Monastiraki area. And what really made me take this picture was the person's appearance. Of course, to me, his characteristic looked it's particular. I wanted to snap an image of this guy. If you take a closer look, it's as if the traditional was combined with the modern, as this guy is actually speaking on his smartphone. So, to some, this might seem funny, but to me, it was interesting, and that is all that went through my mind. The next images I will be showing are images of ordinary people, as I explained earlier, and although they are also different, you can notice the similarities in these images and further understand my style and also my thoughts. I don't go around looking for glamorous people. I want to capture the beauty in the boring and the ordinary, and I want to give life to my subjects. And these, the ones I will be showing, are some examples of this.
Lorella, Paul is asking you, did you ever feel threatened going about with your equipment in countries like South America?
So, there was only one time where I actually felt not threatened, but I felt that I needed to be respectful. It was when I was touring the favelas, where the picture of the little boy with the deck of cards was taken. And a part of the favelas, in a part of it, you are strongly advised to actually hide your camera. Now, I didn't have a smartphone. I had a 70-200, so I really had to hide it and place it somewhere where no one can see it, as there are there's illegal stuff taking place. Children with guns, all that you can imagine is there. So you have to really be respectful to the culture you are in, as in all places.
Paul, I've opened your mic if you want to add anything else.
Yes, I have better experience in South America. I was robbed over there, and anytime you are with a camera, you are attracting attention. And I was not alone. I had six colleagues of mine,
They
but I
were.
was the only one with equipment, and I was robbed.
That's bad.
Yeah, that's it.
That gives you a bad experience of the place, huh?
Yes. The same thing was going to happen when I was in Tripoli, but actually the police intervened and
At least.
got me out of there.
At least.
Yes.
Don't get everything stolen. But
Prosit,
yes,
eh?
yeah, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Martin Seikel, I think regarding the other image, he told you he seems to be an Orthodox monk. The other
Yes.
image, I think.
Yes, however, I didn't really want to specify in case I'm not correct because such subjects might be sensitive to some people and everything. So I didn't really want
Probably
to
he's
specify.
got experience because Martin, like you, is a travel photographer. He's got his own Mimo as well, nomad Mimos, and he travels in countries, in exotic countries. So he's got some experience. Martin, I don't know if you want to add something from your end. I've opened your mic as a travel photographer. Maybe you can give us
I would
some
appreciate
comments,
that.
some feedback. Martin, can you hear me? I'm trying to unmute you.
Yes.
Yes, okay. There's Martin.
Okay. First of all, I like her photography.
Thank you.
It is a different approach to travel photography.
Thank you so much.
Um, I can confirm as well that I was never threatened in South America. I traveled extensively all over South America and Central America with my equipment like you, and I felt safe.
I,
Um,
um, I did feel
if,
safe, but
to
there
be
are
honest,
times.
there was
Sorry.
once in Colombia, there was a person who came up to me advising me not to go down there, for example. But
Mhm.
I did go and nothing happened.
That's
It's
great. Cool.
because I blend with the people easily to my complexion.
Ah, that's something else. That's great though.
Uh,
You get to enjoy the place without actually feeling scared and that something might happen.
I
So,
went as well in Santa Marta, like you did,
okay.
and at first I was afraid, as you said, I was shooting with my mobile. But
Hmm.
then I started to feel confident, and took out my camera as well. It's an interesting place to go.
Very interesting.
Yes, It is managed by a charity in Rio de Janeiro, belongs to the church, and they're doing a lot of good work there.
Yes, yes.
That
Mhm.
that's why they are allowing visitors.
Exactly. That's that. Thank you for that information. I really appreciate it, Martin.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for your
Th-
contribution.
Thank you for your work, for sharing your work,
My pleasure. Thank you
Lorella.
so much.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up.
Thanks.
Okay, no further questions so far, so you can continue.
Okay. So, these are more from the series in Monastiraki in Athens. As you can see, a lot of normal looking people, which struck me and made me like their picture because of their characteristics, their lovely gestures and all that. They look quite Mediterranean like us, as you can see, which made me actually feel more familiar. I'm just scrolling through these as the information I'm giving is quite general to all these pictures. So, now we have moved to Skopje in Macedonia. It was taken in February 2019. Here I was just looking to capture the beauty and the light, which which created a beautiful two beautiful backlit silhouettes of two passers-by, which actually waited and waited and waited and waited to get some people into the shot to have some more interesting subjects, but mainly I took this shot because of the light. This busker in Vancouver, I captured this because I love the way the soft light was shining onto his face, onto his emotion, while just serenading the passers by. playing his guitar. And I really wanted to capture another art. Through my own art, I wanted to make this man's art speak to the viewer. Music is also another kind of art that no matter what race, what religion, what nationality, what gender you are, it has the power to unite us all. So, this one was taken in Belgium. I have titled it Walking into Heaven because that's what seems the woman is doing. I really wanted to just capture the light once again. I'm always looking for the light, and I wanted to enhance that sort of heaven feel by darkening the photo all around and just really focusing on the woman walking and her backlit silhouette coming from the light behind. I also gave this image a golden warm look with a gradient from a cooler to a warmer tone as to balance it like the rest of my images. This image was taken in Las Vegas on the Las Vegas Strip. I was actually struck by the symmetry in the guy's posture, in his workspace, in the art behind him. The way his light source was working for me, it was his light source, and it seemed as if he actually put it on in order for me to take his picture. So yes, the complementary colors between his skin tone and his work of art, those are what really struck me to take the image of this guy. This woman in Innsbruck was one of my first street photographs. Um, she was begging for help, and for that split second, she looked at me, and I was able to snap her picture, and I was very, very happy to do so, as it was one of the first street photographs that I managed to take, with the subject actually looking at me and not yelling stuff at me. This was also taken in Germany, this time in Munich. It's another example of when words fail, music speaks, another art speaking through my image. This guy was actually playing music, serenading the passers-by, and when he saw me, he didn't like me and he covered his face with his violin, which actually worked better for me because I thought it was a beautiful moment that without his face showing, he could actually speak to me in a way no one else could.
We've got another question, Lorella. First of all, Alex Kutayar is saying you have great photos and composition, and he's asking you if you use color grading in your photos. Nice choice of colors, he's saying.
Thank you.
Um, uh, I'm trying to locate Alex so that. Okay, that's the question. I've opened Alex's mic as well if he needs to add something else to his question.
Okay.
I noticed that first of all, very beautiful photos in general. It's not just particularly this one, but and I like the way you edit the colors. Some of them are subtle and not that harsh. They're mild, but do you use any kind of grading in your photos because they're not. Some of them they're really nice to look at. You know.
Thank you. Actually, there's no specific kind of grading that I put onto my photos. I just really spend a lot of time experimenting and trying different gradients, different colors, different tones. Sometimes I spend long, long hours on just one photo to actually get it to the way I like. And sometimes I spend all those hours for absolutely nothing because I end up not liking it. However, yes, I think that's the key. Just spending a lot of time and discovering what looks best. But there's no specific type apart from just the tones, the colors and
Mhm.
gradients and darkening, lightening, all that.
Well done, well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
No.
Okay, you can continue, Lorella. No further questions.
Okay. I'm going to speed a little through the rest because as I see it's already 7:30, so so these are a series of images taken here in Malta. Finally, I've come back, but I will leave again soon. This image of the Malta's dockyard has taught me a lot about my style. This is a real case where I looked for something which people see it as an ugly monstrosity, as something which makes which is an eyesore, and I really wanted to give it uh, a different perspective. I didn't want it to look like an eyesore. Obviously, this was taken through a little puddle from Sengleja. It's a little puddle next to the sea. I really had to crouch down, go down in order to find it. However, I'm really glad I did. This was taken at around 8:30 a.m. in the morning, hence the soft light coming from the left side of the image. And it's actually, as much of an eyesore as it is, one of my favorite images taken in Malta. This image of a Maltese traditional boat was taken in Calcutta on one of the walks I went for during this pandemic, as there was really nowhere else we could go to, so I walked a lot and I took these pictures. What really struck me was the light, the shadows that were being cast on the boat, and the Maltese elements, as in the background of this boat, there is a part of the bastion walls from Vittoriosa. There are also complementary colors again here, the teal, the orange. As you can see, this is another case of harsh lighting I use to my advantage in my photography. This image of Fort St. Angelo was taken around 2 months ago. It was shot at 7:30 in the morning. I woke up just to go and take pictures because that's what I felt like. I edited it in slightly muted pastel colors and in a quite dark way, as I wanted to create an uncommon mood rather than showing yet another pretty cloud, another pretty perspective of the fort. I also like the little details in this image. As you can see, there's a woman walking her dog at the edge of the fort, while some people tend to think that the ship going out, coming in, has ruined my landscape. To me, if the ship wasn't present, I wouldn't have taken the image. The way the light in the morning was rising from the east and actually hitting the top of the clouds and the rest of the ship, the rest of my image. To me, it was what made me take this image. So if the ship wasn't there, again, this image wouldn't have made it to this webinar, as I think it is the point of interest. Another case taken in Malta. This was actually taken at the Valletta shore. It was taken during sunset. What I like most about it, apart from the tones, which I ended up really liking in this image, is the little detail again. As you can see, there's a couple sitting and enjoying the conversation, and I wanted to make my viewer wonder who they are, what they are talking about, etc. Also the birds, the Maltese elements again in the background, we can see the churches, the bell towers, the Maltese flag. To me, this has a lot of elements which really makes this image Maltese. Again, this is another case, another one with a lot of Maltese elements. This one was taken from the Vittoriosa Marina. There's the boat and the church bell towers in the background. There's the sea, the sun, everything Maltese, everything you can use to advertise our country to foreigners. There are also the colors, which are again complementary and muted, the blue from the boat and the golden colors coming from the sunset. I took this image of this boat because it struck me in a way that not all boats did. As you know, the Volterra Marina, there are a lot of luxurious yachts, boats, but I didn't choose to photograph them. Instead, I chose to photograph this one, which looked a bit more old, it had a style of its own. So, we're going back to Rio. This is an image I've always loved. It's one of my favorites from my travel photography series. Many people have a lot of questions about this image. They tend to think I was flying. They ask me if I was okay while shooting this image. They actually ask if the helicopter was edited in later, which I don't know how to do yet. So, just a backstory. This image was taken from the bottom of the Sugarloaf Mountain, which is opposite the Corcovado Mountain, where there is the famous Christ the Redeemer statue. I wanted to give this image a cinematic look, as it's quite a unique viewpoint to see a helicopter below you. You don't always see a helicopter below you. In the background, in fact, you can see the famous Christ the Redeemer statue on the summit of Mount Corcovado, and I titled this photo On Top of the City, as that is really what it felt like to me while shooting it. And it is also what I want you to feel like when looking at it, as if you are the one standing on top of this view above the buildings, the mountains, and opposite one of the seven wonders of the world, actually. This is a similar image. I actually have to say I was at the right place at the right time. However, this happens often, as planes, when they are landing in the Rio airport, they fly pretty close to the Sugarloaf Mountain, as seen in this image. This image was taken from the Santa Marta favela. It has a really unique viewpoint, and it's such a beautiful sight to see, especially when looking at something almost quite risky, however, made in such perfection. Now, off to Slovenia. This image was taken from the balcony in my accommodation. Every morning and every night before sunset, there was this hot air balloon floating, taking tours people up into the Julian Alps. Every day I used to try and photograph this hot air balloon. I was there for 6 days, and every day I went out and looked for the hot air balloon. I waited and waited and waited and waited because I wanted a symmetrical image of this balloon. When I was looking at this scene in real life, I felt a sense of calmness, a sense of serenity, and I really want you to feel that when looking at this image. It still brings me that same feeling I felt when I looked at it on that day. This this view is opposite to the one with the hot air balloon. So imagine you're in a balcony and you have these two beautiful views, one on each side. You photograph this one, you photograph that one, you're in heaven. As you all know, being photographers, being enthusiasts, having so much beautiful angles to shoot is pure heaven. This image has a lot of difference in tones, shades, and temperatures, and also it has a lot of depth. The right part of the image is set on a warmer shade, as the sun is setting behind the castle, and further right, it's leaving a glow coming from behind the castle as well. On the left part, on the other hand, it is set on quite a cooler tone, with teals and blues, which are often mostly associated to open spaces, to a sense of serenity. And the contrast in tones, again, to me represents the difference between day and night, as one part is still being hid by the soft sunlight, whilst the other part seems as if it was taken at a different time of day. This image is a staged panorama of 6 8-second exposures taken from a little sidewalk on Lake Bled. This was a case where, regardless of the situation, I had to make it work. With regards to equipment, as I said, I travel quite lightly, with no tripod, no light stand, nothing. So I literally just placed my camera on the edge of the wooden sidewalk and set a timer and took these exposures one by one. I moved the camera bit by bit until I had enough shots to stitch this one image. And as difficult as it was, I was happy that I made it work. Back to New York. This image was taken from one of the windows on top of the Rockefeller Building, New York. During my stay here in New York, every day I hope to be able to book a tour up Rockefeller during sunset on a clear day. However, I only managed to get there on a gloomy day, which I think turned out for the better, honestly. I ended up liking this gloomy look that the clouds were giving on the skyscrapers, as it really emphasized the majesty of the Empire State opposite of me. I gave this image a warm golden look, as I wanted my viewer to feel as if they're looking over New York City from the comfort and warmth of their own place, through their own windows and through their own eyes, as if I want you to feel as if you are behind that window and that I wasn't the one shooting but you are the one looking at it in the moment. This image shows the busy side of New York City. I took this one whilst on a moving bus, as that's when you get to see the most movement, and that's when life is the most fast and where you can stay unnoticed. In the daylight, the steam coming up from steam stacks reminds you of the heat and energy of this buzzing city, which I wanted to capture in my image. The steam actually comes up from a giant network of underground steam pipes in New York, but I did want it, as I thought it would give that extra touch in my image. This image has got a game of harsh lights and contrasts going on. The crosswalk, the white steam, the endless list of lifeless objects which are brought to life through the movement going on in the city. So the contrasts in this image are again endless. Now off to Paris. This image was taken with my 24 to 70 through a little gap in the intricate lampposts of Pont Alexandre in Paris. This bridge is Paris' most elegant bridge. It's one of the most beautiful river crossings in the world, hence I really wanted to include it in my image somehow without actually making it a mainstream image with both the bridge and the tower. It was a rainy day before the sun actually shone for a bit before it set, hence the little reflective surface in the image. Obviously, I had the option to shoot this image without any obstructions, as the famous Eiffel Tower could be seen from almost everywhere in Paris. However, I chose to photograph it through a part of another Parisian landmark. To me, this conveys the feeling that we live in such a small world that a 300-meter structure can be photographed through a 10-centimeter gap. So, this is an image of the Niagara Falls. It was taken from a viewpoint literally a few meters from the very edge of the Horseshoe Falls. My intent for taking this photo this way was to capture a different perspective of the falls, one that is slightly more dramatic and slightly more bold, and not the usual touristy photos that you see everywhere of the Niagara Falls, and those long exposures, which are beautiful. However, I wanted something different. I really wanted to capture something so strong and so powerful in a simple way, in a simple composition that is still able to portray the power created by the force of these falls, which are incredible. The Radio City Music Hall back to New York, such a tour. Uh, as you all might know, it's an entertainment venue located in the Rockefeller Center. Its nickname is the showplace of the nation, and it was for a time the leading tourist destination in the city. The neons out in the sign outside this venue were something that struck me every time I passed by on New York's 6th Avenue. These neons struck me in a certain way. However, I still muted them in order to suit my style. I paused this hall so many times. However, I only decided to photograph it when the sun was actually creating that kind of effect at that time of day. It was taken in fact at 6:45 p.m., which was around the last 15 minutes of the golden hour in September, New York, as the sun being low enough behind the skyscrapers to give that little flare from between the building in the background and my actual subject. This image was taken by Lake Ohrid in Macedonia. I have titled it Freedom, as it gives me a sense of tranquility and of life. It looks as if the flock of birds is flying off the land towards another place and to the mountains in the distance. And along the shoreline, as you can see, there are carefully reconstructed, stilted villages that also give that somehow Italian vibe. So this was really a combination I wanted to actually capture. So my last set of images all contain cars. My knowledge on cars I find parked on the streets is limited. However, I find all cars particular in their own way, some more than others. Each car has its own unique character. As you know, if there are any car enthusiasts joining today, it's fun to imagine some of the adventures that these cars have had throughout the decades. And I mostly choose to photograph cars when they stand out to me, or whenever I am able to visualize a great image, with the background and the car both playing an important role. So, this
Um,
image,
sorry, Lorella. We've got a question from the Facebook stream. Tessa, who's watching the stream, she's asking how you soften the actual sun area. Tessa is watching us from the Facebook live stream. She's not present in the room, but she's watching us from the live stream. And she's
how
asking
you,
you how you soften the actual sun area. I think the photo of the hall you
okay,
were talking about a bit
this
earlier.
one. Well, I decrease the whites. I actually use radial gradients in order to soften the very harsh part of the image and to give it a more balanced look all throughout. That is mainly it. And I also like to give that little warm golden look in order to make the image, if it makes sense, to make it make more sense. As you know, with the sun in the image, it's a little obvious that there's a golden feel to it. So instead of actually removing it, I tend to enhance it.
Okay. Do you increase the highlights just over the sun area?
I decrease the whites and actually play with the highlights because, as you all know, if you decrease the highlights too much, it will also start to look a little worse sometimes. You always have to experiment.
Sure,
There's no rule for all images.
sure. Okay. Hope Tessa,
Hope I
hope this
answered the question.
answered your question because we cannot put you in live. Okay, you can
If
continue.
any, I wanted to say if anyone has any questions they would like to direct to me, maybe after the webinar, you can message me on Facebook, anywhere you would like, so I can help you further.
Sure.
So, this was taken in Anchorage. It's a Dodge Challenger. Please correct me if I'm wrong and if there are any car enthusiasts who would like to give more information on the car. It stood out to me because of its shape and of its color. The light which was falling onto the right curves and places of the car, which were actually highlighting its massive, beautiful shape. I used the background to my advantage. It was mainly made up of geometrical shapes, all in black and white, which created a nice contrast, and I moved accordingly to place the line dividing the white and black exactly in the center of my image. Squares and rectangles are suggesting conformity, order, which is something that I like in my images, as you have already seen. A lot of parallel lines are also present in this image. When editing it, in post I darkened the shadows in order to give it a deep look, to give it a higher sense of contrast, whilst crushing the blacks to give it that modern, current look, trendy, bold, as you all know. I darkened the bottom of the image and the majority of the rest of it, as I wanted the viewer's eye to just be on the upper car shape details and the contrast of the whole image. My intent for this photo wasn't just for it to be an image of a car, but a whole composition and a puzzle, which happens to include a car, which is the main point of interest. Another car I found in Anchorage. There are many beautiful cars in Anchorage, Alaska. This is a 1966 Corvette. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong, and any of you happen to be very knowledgeable on cars. Apart from the fact that this is a beautiful classic car, the color contrast on Anchorage's 4th Avenue, uh, the orange building behind was something which made me really take this picture. As you know, orange and blue are complementary colors. So again, it was something. It's something constant in my images. Some might wonder why I cropped half the car out, and the reason is that I didn't want to add any distraction from the rest of the building, which would not be complementary to my image. I cropped it tightly so as to leave the rest to the imagination of the viewer and just show a little detail with a splash of contrasting and complementary colors. I will now be moving to my last image. This was taken in Calgary, Canada. I love the way the light was reflecting and highlighting the shiny parts of the car, the way the rims and the sleek black were shining and providing, again to me, a number of contrasts which I am always looking for, as you are now familiar with. The sign above gave me the vibes of creating an image that looks like an advert somehow. With regards to my images, my style, my post processing, and everything that is all I really had to explain from my end. However, I would appreciate if you have any questions or if you would like me to cover anything that I haven't. I would love everyone to keep in mind that beauty is always in the eyes of the beholder. What is beautiful to you may not be necessarily beautiful for the next photographer. Just like a great novel, the subject matter of great street photography is subjective. So always trust your own eye and you will not be disappointed in the outcome. I don't know if there are any questions, Vince.
Lorella, apart from any questions, your praises coming your way kept flowing in. I mean, I can safely say it was one of the best webinars we had so far. really, really motivating, really, really inspiring, and coming from you, such a refreshing, young, and talented photographer. It's really a breath of fresh air for us because, generally speaking, you've got. I mean, I'm going to say to mention some of the places you got over here. Um, uh, Starting by Johan
Okay,
de
I can
Bono.
see them.
You can see it.
I'm
Fantastic
seeing them
work.
now ahead.
Okay,
Thank you
Stephen,
so
Anthony
much. I
Shearer,
will take
Anthony
the time and
Shearer,
read all of them.
Tony Azzopardi, an accomplished photographer, artist, brought it,
Thank you
saying
so much.
Leah Cox. Leah Cox, I'm not sure if it's related to Leonard Cox. I'm not sure. Leah Cox is your daughter? Ah, it's your daughter, Leonardo.
Using her computer.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. Martin Seikel again, process. He said, well done. Joseph Magri, thank you for sharing. Joe, you missed a part of it. You came in, but don't worry, we have it recorded. Carm is saying he's appreciate your modern way of photos, and John Chilia again. You've got
Thank
loads
you
of
so
places.
much.
I can
And
save them
thank
and
you.
send you over the praises. No worries.
I
But
would love that. Thank you so much.
thanks, really, thanks. What I would like is I would like to. I mean, we can spare a few more minutes if anyone would like to ask Lorella, some things, questions. Stephen, maybe we can have a bit your views. I mean, like me, you were amazed with her works.
Yeah, I during our meeting this week on Tuesday, because as might most of you don't know, that me and Vince meet every guest on Tuesday and spend an hour or more another webinar speaking with them, and I was very happy to speak with Lorella, sharing her views, knowing more about her. As I said, she's 22 years old and she's self-taught. That's amazing because although she went to UMCAST, but most of her works that she exhibited today, and also others that you can see on her website, I suggest that you go to her website.
I will write
She,
it in the chat if it's okay.
yes, you
Yeah,
can write it.
sure,
Yes,
sure,
well, you can
sure.
write it there. She told us that she experiments on her own and try to find her own photography. I wish that Lorella will also be part of the Malta Photographic Society and be one of our members. I am sure that when we open the club again, we will invite her. The executive committee will invite her to come over
I would love to meet you all in person. However,
yes.
given the
Th-
situation,
Stephen, in fact, this comes right in good time because we had even a suggestion from Paul. Um, uh, from Paul, he's actually saying that he would love to see another webinar from Lorella. Maybe you could give us an insight and focus on the way how you treat your photos because he's really interested in the way what workflows you use and how you give that photos that particular touch.
I'm
Um, uh,
sure. I'm sure she will be invited by us. But now, I hope that at the club, not over.
Mellow,
Um,
yes, I would love that.
certainly,
I would love that.
certainly, certainly,
keep it
certainly.
up, Lorella. I'm
Thank
sure
you so
that
much.
you will be outstanding. Also, not locally, but also commissioned by foreign companies to take photos for their repertoire. I'm sure of it.
Thank you
Go
so
for it.
much. Thank
This
you. I
is
really appreciate this opportunity to get to do this. It was my first time actually doing a webinar or anything of this sort. So I really hope you all enjoyed it. I can see the
Yes.
positive feedback, which
yes,
Yes.
I'm really happy
definitely,
about.
definitely,
One last
definitely.
comment from me. I know this year was a difficult one for us photographers, and not for photographers only, but for most people. However, I wish you the very best during Christmas and during the next year. I hope it will be better for all of us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
And
And I hope to meet you
just
again.
keep her in mind. I mean, Lorella is, as she said, a professional photographer. She offers a very good service, so keep her in mind, and let's obviously support, guys. Let's support local talent, because really and truly, this is the work that we want to do: scout and find people like Lorella, so that they can share with us. We've got material. If we look and search it, we've got good material that we, even us that are into photography and maybe a bit older and maybe experienced, we can learn from these as well. If there aren't any questions, any further questions, or anyone who would like to add anything, is there anyone who would like to add anything? Tony, yes, Tony, I've opened your mic.
I would just like to nishtiq ilkom il-sena ħafna ħjar, a much better year than 2021 than 2020.
Thank you, Tony.
To beat this COVID thing, thank you for everything you've done. Proset to Lorella, a big hearty well done to Lorella.
Grazie ħafna.
And a very Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Tony. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So actually, we've arrived at our last webinar from 2020, as Stephen said. Personally, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all, first of all photographers participating in our webinars, for being so kind to share with us their work and expertise. Likewise, I thank you all for joining our webinars, for making them so popular again, and hope to see you again in the first quarter of the next year with a new program to enjoy our Thursday evenings, all dedicated to the art of photography, which is close to our hearts. I wish you all a very blessed Christmas, to you and your loved ones, and a happy and successful 2021. We will see you in January. Keep safe and
See you all.
have
See you
a
all.
Thank
lovely.
you so much. See you.
Thank you, Lorella. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ciao, 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 ciao.
Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.